Now that
we've got a few stories out of the way, but today we decided to all go out on tour together, which is Realtor Tour.
No, we're not a rock band. I'd be the lead.
Screw this podcast. Let's hit the road.
Forget real estate. We're going to become entertainers.
I mean, I'm down if you guys are down.
No. You're the only person that has the talent to go on tour. Out of the three of us, let's be real. You can play an instrument.
Come on.
Yeah,
we all know that Scott can play a mean jazz flute.
Yeah.
Jazz flute. Remember? Jazz flute from Anchorman.
That's where I was going.
I'll dig out the old trombone and we'll start
I
the band.
forgot you. I can play the flute, probably just blow into it, and that's it.
But anyway, we went around, and it's a time like during the week, depends on your area,
Your
but
region, yeah.
It allows the realtors to get a sense of what's happening in the market. So we went and checked out a few different houses, actually quite interesting variety, and
Ramsey, Mawa, and Franklin Lakes.
All different kinds of price points.
Yeah. And that was, that's the big thing. Usually we have specific reasons. I mean, if I have something that's coming on, if I have a buyer who's looking in a price range, it lets us set up that next meeting and really know what we're looking at. For me as a listing agent, I know that I try to see as much as possible in my area so that if something comes on, and I'm meeting with a new seller, they say, oh, well, what about this house? And it came on at this price. It's like, well, I actually went and see that. And I happen to think it's overpriced because
or your home has XYZ and this home doesn't have that. What's frustrating for me is in my area, so like Ringwood, Wanakee, West Milford, they don't do Realtor Tour. It's just not a thing. So it's very hard for me to get out and look at inventory. And recently, but like over the past 2 years, I've tried to do like previews and the agents just have not let me. And I'm like, I know it's inconvenient, like your seller can stay home, I'll be in and out, but it's really frustrating when I don't get to see a property and open houses. But like, what if I'm doing my own open house? Now I can't see it. So I'm very frustrated by that in my area, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. And I think it's one of the biggest injustices we do to our sellers to not have that feedback. And I think one of the biggest things about Realtor Tour is being able to give your seller an idea of how agents are perceiving your price. So, I don't know. I'm frustrated that we don't do it.
The only time I don't do it, unless, there's two. The first is if a seller absolutely refuses, which I always advise them to see it, because if one realtor, even if they don't have a client for that house, but they've seen it, and then they,
what if they're out somewhere and somebody asks about it?
Exactly.
I know.
And or they can relay it back to someone else in their office. If someone at a meeting says, "Hey, I'm looking for this, this home in this price range in this town," and then it's like, you know what? I just saw a cool one on Realtor Tour. You should check it out. That's a great way of networking. That's why most sales, they are coming through a realtor because the realtor knows that knowledge, knows that property ahead of time.
Michael, I actually met you before I met you at a Realtor Tour. It was on Mohawk in Mawa. I was still at my last company, and I remembered you. Aw.
It happens.
Our friendship is so special.
Mohawk. I'm trying to think of what house that was.
It was right against 287. So that was Cherokee.
It wasn't Mohawk. It was actually Cherokee.
Yeah.
It was actually my assistant's.
And that went really fast.
We had 8 offers.
I was going to say, because you priced it perfectly. And I remember even meeting with you saying, like, well, yeah, 287's right there, and we've accounted for it. And I knew it would go quick. The home is very nice. It reminded me a lot of my parents' house before they did their renovations.
Right. It wasn't updated, but it was meticulously kept.
Oh my God,
she did a great job of keeping everything in pristine condition.
It was priced so well. So I wasn't surprised, but I remember that was one of my few KW encounters before I was with KW, and I remembered you, which is kind of funny because then when I ended up seeing later, I was like, oh, I know him. So it's fun.
Same with Scott. Like, I mean, we got to know each other at a couple different realtor tours, whether it was running into each other while we were seeing the same house, or him previewing one of my houses, or that's kind of how it.
And it's also nice to support your fellow agent, right? I mean, that's what we try to do, like support your open house or whatever, your broker tour, and come out.
Well, that's how I knew he'd be great for the company.
Yeah.
I mean, when Sally said, "Oh, Scott's coming to this event and possibly joining," I was like, he's great. He's always been nice at the Realtor Tours. He's the right kind of person I see out and about, because it's someone who's doing their job professionally. I think Realtor Tour is part of being professional.
Yep.
Can you of course get an idea of houses by just looking at them online? You can get an idea.
I'm so uncomfortable with that still.
You can't. There's no substitute for seeing a house in person.
Today, what did you do with the house in Bogart Ranch? In the kitchen, Scott.
Oh yeah, you were opening the drawers and.
Oh yeah.
See if it was easy close. Like, now mind you, is that life changing? It's going to add $30,000 of value? No, but for a very low priced home in a great town with great schools, good taxes, the fact that he was able to go into that kitchen, open the drawers, open the cabinets, and then see that it was
the whisper close. Yeah.
Ooh, that's what you call it?
Yeah. What do you guys call it?
Self close.
I mean, it doesn't close itself.
Whisper close. Doesn't do that.
Yeah,
Michael, what do you call it?
I probably just say slow close or something like that.
Whisper
close is cool.
That's kind of like Whisper Close would be a good band name.
I'm definitely going to steal that.
And not credit him.
Let's go on the road, guys. Whisper Close.
Whisper Close.
Summer 2017 tour.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, so just to add a little descriptor there, it's the cabinets and the drawers that even if you try to slam them shut, they have a resistance point where they'll close softly on their own.
That's why I call them like a soft close. But
that's why I call them
self-closing. Honestly, it's just annoying that you call it that, but I also kind of love it, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's a good descriptor.
But like it is, and there's something to say about there are times. How many times have you guys taken a buyer out where you haven't been able to preview the property, and the second you walk in that house, you're like, oh, this is out. Mm-hmm. And it's maybe not something obvious. Maybe it's like, I hate to say it, I have clients that will never buy a home with a smoker in it, that smokes in the home. So like, go on tour, oh, we're not going to buy, it's things like that. Or, wide angle lenses, it looks great, it's gorgeous, the kitchen looks huge. And then you walk into the kitchen and it's not huge. So there's something to be said about touching, feeling.
Absolutely.
Like, our job will never be replaced by formulas, automation, and online pictures. It's never going to be replaced by it, ever.
I get people all the time, and while I take it as a compliment, I also feel bad sometimes where someone says, oh, it looks so much nicer in the pictures. It's like, I mean, like, I take it as a compliment because I take my own photos, but I also, it's a true fit thing. Like, I'm trying to show it from its best possible light, the best possible angle, the best possible lighting for the room, to really get an idea of what.
I'm very cautious when I have like a smaller home, like a Cape, to my photographer. Like, don't do white crops, do something tighter, because I just get nervous. But again, like you're saying, if you're looking at an exterior photo when it's sunny and gorgeous and nice, it's gonna look better than when you go there on a rainy day. But I think going on tours, and it's really fun. I mean, I had a nice time today. So what was the favorite thing your favorite thing that you saw today in the house? Like,
well, wait, before we even get into that, because something about like going into a house versus just viewing photos, I think we got it with our first two houses that we went into, was you can also usually, when you go into a house, almost embody whether that person cared for the home
100%,
or whether there was like a lack of maintenance when it came to keeping up with the home. And you can't get that from pictures because nobody's ever going to show you
the bedroom that has dirty clothes everywhere and garbage.
Or even like worse, like the just the mechanics of the house, or the elements of the house that were overlooked over the years. It's always going to be shown in its best light through the photos, and then you step into the house and you're like, oh my God. So like what Megan was saying earlier about, like, sometimes you walk into a house with your buyers and know right off the bat, like, this is a waste. Like, we came all the way over here.
And I feel bad for the seller in that case. Like, I don't want to waste their time either. So it's really frustrating, especially in my market where I cannot see these homes before. I had an agent, I wanted to preview this home. She literally asked me, I would say, like, 9 questions. And I'm like, at this point, this, like, me and my buyer were like, forget it. Like, they don't want to sell their home. And mind you, like, I don't take out buyers that aren't qualified. I don't waste anybody's time. But, like, she made it so difficult to go to an appointment that my buyer said, you know what, I don't even care anymore. I just want to forget it. Like, that's not cool. In my opinion, like, if I could have previewed the home right then and there, I could have figured out the motivation possibly. But this agent just makes everything so difficult. So anytime whatever, I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but she's a very difficult agent, and she's very nasty. I came to her open houses and she never greets me. She follows me like I'm going to steal something, and I'm like, come on, lady, we're all here to help our clients.
Well, and
I'm here to sell your house for your seller.
To just touch on that, I mean, that's the reason why, I mean, most agents are going to ask to preview a home is,
so you don't waste time.
Yeah, like.
Well, we always talk about, and we've talked about in the past episode about, a buyer, buyer presentation before you show them a house.
Yeah.
And that's, I've had. Like I've said in the past, I've had buyers who I've worked with for 3 years that I've shown maybe 10 homes total, because I went out and previewed now again, this was a luxury buyer, so there weren't that many homes that actually fit exactly what they were looking at, and they had they didn't have a timeline. They cared more about the house than they did about the timing. So that's not the case with everybody, but only showing them 10 houses in 3 years, like, some people would be like, oh, are they still working? No, it was I was saving them time. I wasn't wasting their time looking at something that didn't apply to them.
Yeah, and especially now with the internet, like, every home gets all of our buyers' attention. Like, I have clients send me like 10, 11, 12 homes. They're like, oh, I love this one, love this one. I'm like, all right, but, like, reel it in, and that's why it's so important to know your inventory, because you're able to say, oh, that street, and I hate to say it, there's been times where I've shown homes and the next door neighbor's house is like a junkyard and there's just stuff everywhere, and some buyers are fine with that, but I know certain buyers would never buy that home. So I actually do encourage to do, like, Google Street View, get an idea of the neighborhood, because there's a couple homes that, like, are on a great street, but maybe if you're to the side of the road, you would never, I don't know, there's a million different situations. Right. So the point is, I'm frustrated that I don't get days like this in my area. It's so incredibly frustrating for me.
And we also saw the importance of staging.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there were houses that were, there was one particular house that was listed right at just under $2 million. Okay, so if you're going to see a $2 million house, you'd expect,
everything is in its place.
You'd expect, everything to be tidied up and exactly, and set up a certain way. It should be staged. I mean, I can't believe that a house in that price range is not staged. In the town we were looking at, I don't know if we want to disclose it, it's not a good market for a seller. It's a really tough market for luxury, and it's a tough market for a seller. Like, you're talking about 12, 13 month absorption rate? I mean, at least.
So you can't afford to have toilet seats, toilet bowls with their back cover on. Right. One house literally had 3 toilets with the back cover on.
Yeah, and there were parts of the home where there was, things or stuff,
dirty laundry,
blocking your ability to walk in a direction that you would normally just want to go explore that corner of the bedroom. Like,
absolutely.
If you don't make it accessible, we're gonna just move on.
Yeah.
Right.
And especially for tour day. I mean, this is the one day you're trying to put your best foot forward to the realtors who potentially could sell this house. And they're, it certainly didn't show that way to me. And I would tell, if my clients asked about it, I would say, it hasn't really been taken care of that well.
Or let's maybe be a little bit less aggressive on our offer because it's not been taken care of, because they're not showing motivation. And one of the biggest tools I think I've used recently has been with pricing. When, like, somebody wants to go higher than what I'm comfortable the market's showing, I say, so do you want me to bring in 15 people on Realtor Tour, then do an open house, and all we're doing is advertising that we're overpriced? Because if are any of us going to know, if we had buyers for this property, let's say, are any of us going to go back to the house with the toilet seat totally exposed? I mean, the toilet bowl. Most likely not, unless our buyer's super into it.
But it might be under the notion that, like, hey, like, this looks like maybe something's going on here, and
they're desperate.
The funny thing we were saying, we saw, a house that was around, a little over 200,000 that had a nicer kitchen than that house.
Yeah, today was really fun. So we saw two luxury homes. An average, I hate saying an average home, it was $1 million, but an average home for that town, right? Mm-hmm. And then a mobile home that was gorgeous. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, gorgeous home for under 3, significantly under 3.
So if you're thinking of buying, selling, or investing in real estate, give Scott Stewart a call.
201-789-8692. All right. Yeah, we're loud. I'm louder than you. No, but
good investment though. I mean,
I think it's a great place to live. I honestly, like, if I was a single woman and I didn't have anywhere to go, but I wanted to stay in, this was a Mawa in this case, I'd buy it.
Well, and what we kind of talked about is that, like, there has to be an entry level into every town's market, right? And like, that's providing a great entry level,
especially with the tax. Well, I remember where the taxes were on that place.
Position into a neighborhood. Now, yes, it's in a mobile home community, which on its surface level sounds a little bit, less desirable, but really nice little.
Oh my gosh, it was a beautiful, right? It was a great community. I loved it. So, what was your favorite feature you saw today?
That's tough. I'd probably go with the. Now, again, it's very difficult to say it this way because, of course, it's gorgeous and beautiful. But actually, there's 2 things.
Mm-hmm. I think ours is probably the same.
The first was the high-end, beautiful wine cellar/bar at the highest-end home we saw.
That was the best wine cellar I've seen.
Because I've seen plenty of luxury homes, but this was done very nicely with a beautiful wooden door entrance, and it was, it's the kind of entrance you see in a house, any other room in the house.
I've seen luxury homes that don't have a front door as nice as the door that goes to the wine cellar. Well, the wine closet.
And the fact that it was also glass open so you could look into it, it became a feature piece of the house rather than just
a closet that's been converted.
And but then the other part was we were at a house that had a shuffleboard table
and a full bar. Like, I've been to bars.
Is that basement?
I just wanted to have fun. Party in that.
So this basement had really high ceilings. It had a bar that probably, would you say, 12 seats?
Yeah, 8? It was a pretty decent bar.
A kegerator.
Yep.
Darts. Shuffleboard, air hockey, high ceilings, full bath, access to the garage, and then like a little movie room. Like, not a theater. It was like a little movie room. It was the coolest basement ever. I loved it. And I just felt like, in that basement, there's been a lot of good times. Like, you get that energy.
And it wasn't overdone. Like, I mean, I know we just said a lot of features, but it was all set up to be fun and functional, not
luxurious.
Hey, look at me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what I think.
Which that entire house, I thought, was very.
You could tell that it was made for the family and what they needed.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't done by a builder on what he thinks would sell. It was a family going, okay, we need a mud room. We need this playroom that was off to that one room. We need a wraparound porch. We need and it was like, I honestly felt very at home in that house. I felt like you could feel the functionality, the family presence, and I loved it. I hope it goes quickly for her. It was a beautiful home.
Yeah,
that it was.
And I would say another thing that wasn't as positive, the highest priced home that was around is around 2.6 million, actually a little higher than that.
Yeah.
The house is completely empty because the people had already moved out. All right, that happens sometimes. That's not really something you can control from a staging standpoint. But there were just small things that, when you're looking in that price range,
at that level of luxury,
just showed that you should that should have been buttoned up. It's like the moldings had crack settlement cracks in there,
which is normal.
It's not a big deal. It's not something that's terrible to fix. But if you're trying to put your best foot forward, it doesn't show that it was as well taken.
As the realtor, I'm going to point out, look at that crown molding, and you're seeing nail holes. It wouldn't
have cost them a lot of money in that price range.
It's all in perspective, right? Because when we're looking at a $300,000 house to a $800,000 house. Like, I'm always going to tell somebody it's totally worth it for us to bring in the home stager, go through the house, figure out what needs to stay, what needs to go, how we need to get the place tidied up. Then secondarily, we've talked about it before, cleaning your windows, doing these things, calling in a handyman for a day's worth of work just to, touch up the paint, things like that. So maybe somebody in that price range is spending, $1,000, $1,500 to get their home ready for the market. So yeah, to look at a $2.6 million home and like almost feel like they
overlooked everything.
Like, it's like, you couldn't have spent a couple bucks to get this place mint.
And if it was, and that house actually has to be mint because the location of it did not have a great backyard and was on the corner of not a busy street, but a busier street.
It was a double yellow.
So, the street itself is quiet, but it's, you
I
have
always
people
just say,
going by.
don't give a buyer a reason to nitpick your home.
And
don't give them any opportunity to. Now, I'm not saying that everything needs to be perfect, but when you're looking at almost a $2.6 million home, there are certain things that the buyer should not have to notice. Like, one of the things that I pointed out that Michael made a good point, like, it didn't have California closets. It was not a Home Depot closet. It wasn't a California closet. It was in between. But Michael made a good point. Everybody has different tastes, and if you make it super custom, maybe they won't. I don't know. I get that. But the issue I had really is just, like, not touching up paint. Like, touching up paint is the simplest thing you can do. Most people have excess of said paint, so all you have to do is pay someone, or on a day.
Especially moldings, because it's bright white, like it's easy bright white, like it's not like something that you have to figure out and match.
Which, all of that being said, I mean, that home was gorgeous.
Absolutely.
But if we as realtors are looking at that and kind of seeing those little things, then you have to believe that.
And we're not paying for it.
Yeah,
right.
We're not paying for
buyers
this
who are
house.
about to shell out $2.6 million are going to extrapolate that into a much grander level of like, oh my God, why isn't this done? Why wasn't that done? So, yeah.
So,
and I'm not going to harp on it.
No, not at all. Because everything.
And if we were walking through that house with a buyer, you'd probably be the first person to be saying, like, well, that's an easy thing to get, fixed. That's easy to be repaired.
But instead of thinking about how they're going to move into that house or thinking about what do I have to do to make it to the level that I want. Again, we're not talking about $40,000, but it's enough where, okay, well, I'm going to have to rip down wallpaper and do this and that. Like, it's not a big deal, but I just think, like I always say to people, when you're selling your home, it needs to almost look like you don't live there. It needs to look like fairies, like Cinderella's crew comes in and cleans it every day. And if you do that for a few days and you price it right, you can have it be normal living in condition. Like, I don't mind during inspection if I see dirty laundry. It doesn't bother me if I see maybe some dishes in the sink during inspection, because at that point, we're already loved. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, I don't mind certain things to not be show perfect during inspections.
I mean, I
don't mind.
I don't mind it as much.
I don't mind it, but it still should be, because you're talking about.
But my impression of the house, like whether it's conscious or unconscious, my impression of the house will change if that's the case.
Well, and if we're working with a seller, like, it's not so much that I mind it, it's that buyers and the perception of other agents is going to have that negative tinge to it. So it's not that I mind it, but like, it's in your best interest to do X, Y, and Z to make sure that we have no.
That's why I love like 97% like vacant homes. So I just put one on last week, and they ended up moving already. They wanted to move first, then sell their home. They're moving like down the coast. So I was able to go there once they moved out the day after, just like sweep up, because it's just regular moving dust and everything. I touched up paint in like, I shouldn't advertise this because I did a lot of work, but like, I touched the paint here and there, but it was perfect because like, I was able to do a couple things. My sellers did a ton of work to get the home ready. It was more me just coming through after the big move to make sure everything was just so. And those are like my favorite listings, because the open house is perfect. No one was in there. I was able to get there. I went there at like 10 o'clock in the morning, dropped some stuff off, like opened some windows because it was gorgeous out. And that's what I like, when you're able just to go in there. And I don't mind preparing a home to some degree when it's under my control. But when you have kids and pets, it's a lot harder to get the home ready hours ahead of time. But, selling your home, you do it once, you do it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can we shift into something really fun? Can we talk about some of the wackiest things we've ever seen on tour? Or like during a showing? Like, have you ever had something crazy happen?
Well, I mean, I've had some... actually on tour once, I had a client who neglected to tell me that her son was homesick. And I went through the whole house. I turned on all the lights and everything like that. I didn't see anything, and I, was all ready. And I had the lunch prepared. I had everything, set up exactly the way it was. It wasn't, it wasn't the neatest, house because she had 3 kids, their kids' toys and things like that. But he had been sleeping underneath the covers, and I didn't see him. And then all of a sudden, another realtor had been going through and said, "Do you know there's someone asleep upstairs?" And I said, "Wait, what?" Because I didn't see him when I went through and prepared the whole house because he was completely under the covers. And
imagine Mike, we went to go straight out the bed covers and like fluff the pillow. You're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
And I called and I said, "Oh, you should have told me that your son was homesick. I would have canceled the Realtor Tour." She's like, "Oh, no, it's fine. He can just stay."
It's not fine.
I said, no. So I said...
Uncomfortable.
So I shut the door. I put a note on it, "Do not open," and everything like that. And it was... it was the most surprised I've been.
Oh, that's mild.
I would say.
That's mild. I was at a Realtor Tour one time in like Saddle River or like some like luxury town. It was like a $3 million home, and there was somebody in the master suite taking a shower. Like, the owners were home, they were hanging out in the kitchen making food, someone was in the shower getting ready. It felt like I was an invisible robber. Like, I came in to rob these people, and I was under like an invisibility cloak.
That was one of those fancy lifestyle situations,
no, it was
right?
So like, you go into the master and you hear a shower, and we're like, "Oh my God!" Like, so that was bad because like the agent knew about it, didn't warn me. There's been times where I've when you walk into like a condo or a house, you get the vibe that someone's there. Like, you just know. So even if I know it's vacant, I ring, I knock, and I go, "Hello," because I've gone through so many situations.
And that's what I did when I showed up at that house. You. And he didn't, and the kid did not make any noise.
It drives me crazy. And I was doing a showing a few weeks. I called Scott so pissed off. I was doing a showing for my buyers. It was the first house. We were looking at like 6 that day. It was a marathon. Like, we had to hustle. We go to this house. The front door was open. Like, I went to go like get my lockbox and open. I ended up locking it. I'm like, all right, maybe they just ran out, because a lot of times sellers will just like pop in the car, go for a drive, and then when I'm done showing, they'll leave, which is totally fine by me. And I get in the house and like I hear like the TV on, but it was on like a music channel. I'm like, all right, maybe they're trying to like set the vibe. And then this dog was there, like this dog jumping all over the place, like almost ran out into the street. So I was like, oh my God, like I'm a dog lover. My clients have dogs. They have 3 dogs. So it wasn't a big deal, but it was super distracting because the dog was jumping all over the place. So we're looking at the dog, not the kitchen, not the dining room. So I kept saying, "Hello," like, all right, like, I guess no one's here, whatever. And then we go upstairs and I open a bedroom door, and this like high school kid with like no shirt on is like sleeping, like, so I'm like, oh my God. I texted the agent, like, "Just so you know," and we ended up leaving the house. We didn't even see the rest of the house, and it wasted my time because it was in a town that was really far from the rest of the homes we were looking at. Not really far, but it was far enough. The kid was embarrassed. I was mortified. My clients were mortified, and then we had to deal with this dog and I was just like, you know what? This is the stuff that I can't stand. Because it's inappropriate, it's unprofessional, it wasted my time, it wasted, more importantly, my client's time, and this poor kid was like half naked in his room, and like 4 adults walked in on him. Like, that's not cool. But like, this stuff happens all the time. I've walked in on showings twice. People have been in the shower. One time we opened the bathroom door, didn't even realize this girl was naked brushing her teeth. Like, I've seen so many naked people.
That's a lot for, I mean, I haven't had.
Oh my God, no. This has happened to me a lot. What else has been really crazy? Like one time I went into a house and I see a baby monitor on. I didn't see the baby in there, and then about to go upstairs, I hear the shower on, then a baby crying, and we're like, "Let's get the fuck out of here!" So my sister and her fiance, before they got married, were like, "Oh my God, this is super weird." And I texted the agent, like, "I'm just letting you know, like, your clients were home in the shower. Like, I hope they didn't. Like, I'm so sorry." And she's like, "Oh, it's okay. Like, do you want to come back?" And I'm like, "No, like, no, we don't want to come back. That was mortifying." So I've had, I'd say, 3 shower encounters, 2 that resulted in like almost walking in, 1 walking in.
The good old adventures of Ringwood, I guess.
No, this was all over the place. This was Ringwood, Park Ridge, and then there's been times where like one time I was opening up a door like into the basement, and it was a toilet paper mount, like mounted like vertically. So it was like a toilet paper roll. It was actually quite creative. I had a room one time that was it was a baby's room. The theme was all Chucky. Chucky everything. Chucky doll in the crib. Chucky photos. They must have known I'm telling you, I could go on for hours with these stories.
That's creepy.
I had a showing one time where the owner kept going down and like pour himself a beer from his keg and like offered us beer. He was like clearly drunk, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so weird. I've had so many weird showings.
I guess, the only, as far as on tour, I had one where someone had cameras throughout the entire house. And like it was like if you went into certain rooms, it had a note on it that smile, you're on camera. Like it just made people feel like, again, it was a nice luxury home, but it was also like
very threatening.
It felt uncomfortable, like because we're just there to take a look at the property as a whole, like not, and it was like directly positioned so when you would walk into a room, the camera would be staring right at you. It wasn't like something in the corner that was casually monitoring. It was like looking at your face.
Like I get like there are people that have certain like valuables or dangerous things in their home. Like I showed a house this past week, and there was just like a gun cabinet that, mind you, was like more pretty than it was safe. Like it was glass. And I thought you were telling me to like move the microphone away from me. Sorry. It was like glass. It was very cute, but like it had guns in there. Mind you, the agent was present for the showing, so like fine. But I was extremely uncomfortable with the fact that there was a gun case. Now, mind you, I grew up around guns. I have no problem with guns, whatever. But when you're selling your home, the buyer should never see them, nor should they be able to, like, I could literally get a knife and jimmy that lock, because I know that gun case, I've seen it before, and like grab a gun. Like I just was like, my mind was blown. Like, these are the things to tell your client, like, listen, your guns are great, but it's a valuable. Could you put them in the attic or do something where like I don't walk into a room and could jimmy the door open? Maybe I've had bad luck. I've had some crazy
You've
showings.
had a little bit of bad luck, but it's
been fun. It honestly helps you bond with your clients.
I'm sitting over here being like, I guess I don't have a very adventurous career when it comes to working with my buyers.
Oh no, I've come into homes where like there's like freaking weed scraps on the table. It stinks like weed, and you're like, all right, but like just clean it up.
I have shown a house that had a grow room in it. But it was a dismantled. There weren't actual things in there, but there were lights and foil and all these other things. And I was like, and my one client said what is going on? What's this? And her husband is like, honey, what do you think it is? And so like that ended up being a teardown house, but it wasn't really a teardown house. It didn't need to be, but it just happened that a builder had bought the one right next to it and built it.
I feel like most of my circumstances involve where like a house has tenants, where like the seller just doesn't much have control over that, like, unfortunately, like, and walking in on somebody like sleeping on the couch and being, hello, like,
so sorry, but
we're just here showing the house, like,
and most tenants
enjoy your nap, like,
all right, just go.
Yeah.
But like I usually call the agent and like I'm never rude, but I get like firm, like, you just wasted my time. You embarrassed someone. Did you forget to tell them?
But that's so tough, because so like now I've experienced that firsthand, being a tenant in a place that was getting
absolutely
re-rented out at the end of our lease, and I can remember like reaching a point where I was like, what's my stake in the game here? Like, yeah, I signed a lease that said, like, showings could happen for the last 60 days of the lease period, but, like, this is kind of an inconvenience to my life. And
usually
like,
with reasonable notice.
Yeah, well,
you know, like,
and what was annoying there was that, like, you got to see it firsthand, where, like, agents would schedule an appointment and then not show up.
That happened to our client Andrew.
Or just not show up.
No.
So I'm the person who's being courteous, saying,
of course,
yeah, no problem. Like, I'll clear out for an hour, and then, like, I had the 2 dogs, so a lot of times that meant, like, literally just going in, sitting in my car across the street, and being like, like, kill some time. And nobody would ever show up. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I wasted an hour of my time to let somebody show the house, and they never showed up.
It's just crazy.
I get it. Like, as a tenant, you don't have a stake in the outcome of that showing. So, like, you kind of just like,
but some of it, though, is embarrassing for you. Like, I agree with what you're saying, and, you know, if your kitchen's a little messy, are you going to fret over it? Probably not. And most people, like, if you're looking at a rental, I always say to them, like, the tenant may not you know, whatever, let them know. But, like, when you're, like, in the shower brushing your teeth naked, and either your agent didn't tell you had a showing, or you just didn't remember, or you didn't care, like, that's something. And mind you, this girl was young, and my client was, like, in his 60s. Like, that made his day. He was so happy.
There's something that Michael and I have been meaning to tell you. We've been running a social experiment.
And giving you the worst showings that can happen.
We've honestly,
been paying actors
only a couple times have I gotten very pissed off because it's been an inconvenience, or it's disappointed my client, or my client feels uncomfortable. And you know what? If you laugh about it and you move on, it is what it is. But it's really difficult that when you're setting up your day with your buyer, and they work, and they have kids, this is like the 4-hour window they have, it's really annoying when you waste 30 minutes of it because someone wasn't prepared, or the agent didn't clarify. It's just frustrating. Now, mind you, I give everybody a pass, but there are times where it's like obvious they don't give a shit, and that's what gets me frustrated. But it's funny as hell to tell people.
On the listing side, I've had it, you know, and like you said, it does happen far more on rentals than it does.
Absolutely.
You know, that's because you're not dealing with 2 people. You know, on the other side, you're dealing with 3, or I mean, 3 parties. You're dealing with the agent, the owner, and the renter. Yeah. But as a listing agent, I've had it where it says specifically, you know, do not go unless you have a confirmed appointment. And I've had people that text me for an appointment, and I did not confirm with them, you know, because either I was waiting for the person or not, and I said, you know, and then they go and they show up. It's like, you didn't have a confirmed appointment. Like, it's like, I understand you requested it, but I said but I specifically say I will have to confirm. I will let you know, and they say, and they'll tell me, and they'll just show up, and it's like, you didn't have a confirmed appointment. I'm sorry.
You know what I just learned is that supposedly our lockboxes have a secondary code,
CVS code.
Yeah. And because it is a pet peeve of mine, especially I had it with a vacant home of mine where an agent just went, and you know, we talk about this, how, you know, we've talked to our sellers about the level of trust of having the lockbox placed on that listing, and for an agent to kind of like not respect that and to just go without a confirmed appointment, even if they did reach out. So I love that idea of having like a secondary code that kind of says like, hey, like, did you actually get a confirmed appointment? Because I don't think so. Like,
and it's like nowadays with our phones, there's like no excuse why. Like, there's been a few times where like my brother's like, oh, what about that house? And like, it looks vacant. It's vacant. But that doesn't mean that I'm allowed to go. What if there's an alarm?
Yeah.
So like nowadays on your phone, there's no excuse why you can't sit there, wait 2 seconds, pull up the listing, vacant, go direct. Awesome, we can pop in. Or just call the agent right then and there. Say, I'm outside the listing. Can I go? So for a vacant listing that had an alarm, I actually took off the lockbox after we accepted an offer, because it was such a hot property. It was Montvale. I had so many people just like driving by, and I mean, it was clearly vacant, but there was an alarm, And I was just like, you know what?
The home.
And
yeah, and especially when there's alarms, when I put a lockbox on, I actually tend to put the lockbox in a location where they
can't see it,
where they don't know where it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and okay, the big ones: dogs, alarm, or children. If they have any of those three, to prevent these instances, because these instances have happened in the past, I put in big letters, do not go without a confirmed appointment due to dog.
Yep.
And
I'll say vicious dog, even if it's a dachshund. I don't care, but...
Yeah,
even on my vacant listings, I always say text Megan for an appointment, or do use showing time. Even though, my Ringwood listing, you can go at 1 o'clock in the morning and it's fine. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But
do
I
not
still,
go.
and also it's also a part of us knowing who's showing our properties and being able to have their phone number. I mean, mind you, when they log into the lockbox, we get their info. But it's still just building that relationship. Like, hey, how'd you like the home? Any questions? Forgot to mention XYZ is here. That's included. That's that. So it's a part of also building the relationship and getting the home sold. But I've had some really fun encounters, really, really fun ones.
And I always try to make the tenant feel like they're a part of the process if I'm working for the seller.
Yeah.
I say, listen, I'm not here to make your life difficult. I'm here to try to help. The sooner that we can get people in and get it rented, the less the people will be in your hair. So if we can work together on this, if you can't do a showing, not a problem. Just let me know.
Yep, I agree.
And by the way, where are you planning on moving?
Of course.
Or renting.
Yeah.
Yes, but we tend to work it out. If I have a good relationship with the tenant, they're going to, be more receptive to the showings. It's going to get shown sooner, and it's going to get rented sooner, and they're not going to have to deal with those people coming in.
Sometimes I think scheduling appointments is the hardest part of our job.
It's one of the most time-consuming very often.
And that's what I mean. It's difficult because there are, let's say your client wants to see 5 homes. Okay, well, you start with 1 and 2. And then you really can't move on to 3 and 4 until you know
you've got 1 and 2 locked down.
Yeah, and even if 1's not locked down, but 2 is. Okay, worst case scenario, we start at 2 and forget what. So it's not hard, but it is time consuming. And then Michael said in I think maybe a lost episode or one that's been recorded, you try to give between 1 and 2 I'll be there. And I have times okay, we'll see you at 1. I'm like, yeah, but I'm talking it might be 120, maybe 140. I don't friggin' know.
Well, there's always so many different variables where I always try and factor in giving my buyers at least 20 to 25 minutes to actually view the home. But then sometimes,
but if they hate it,
but sometimes you're walking into a home and it's we don't like it. And then sometimes they're loving the home and they're wanting to look at every nook and cranny. And it's all right, guys, I know this sounds like it's probably going to be the one. We do have 3 more places to go look at. What do you want to do here?
That's I try to one trick that I've learned with that when I'm scheduling. I try not to show more than 6 homes.
No, because they're not going to remember.
They're not going to remember. 2, I always have them keep a top 3, and then if I'm going to by the time we're going to the 4th home, I make them give one of them back to me.
Yep.
So that they realize, so they don't get overwhelmed by having to remember something. But the other thing is, if there is a vacant home, I may schedule that
middle.
Right around the middle, so that if we're running behind or if we're running ahead, we can
move it.
we can move that one either to the end if we're running behind, or we can catch up and pull that one one ahead, and then get to those.
In a vacant home, sometimes it's nice just to hang out. There's been times in a vacant home where, it's staged.
You're discussing a previous property,
or we just talk about whatever. And I say, can we just hang out? Sometimes they go, we're running a little early. Want to just hang out here for 10 minutes, and then we'll head out. And they're usually fine with it. But that's one of the harder parts, I think, because it's not about our skill. It's not about our knowledge. It's just about timing, traffic.
There's a lot of factors.
Exactly. So it's nothing to do with our profession. It's everything to do and there are times on a Sunday I forget I'm planning to look at 4 houses in Paramus, Park Ridge, Emerson. And I'm like, oh, there's no traffic. So I'm flying through, like that 10-minute drive is now like 6 minutes because there's nobody on the roads. Everything's closed. So that's always fun. But I mean, I honestly, like, there are times where after a showing and I nailed all the timing perfectly, I'm like, yes. Like, they don't know, but I'm like, I did it. I scheduled it perfectly. Like, and those were like little successes for me. Just because I'm very organized, and if I'm late, I'm anxious.
Yes, we know this about Megan.
Can't be late.
Megan is the earliest person I know.
I've gotten better at not being too early, because being early is just as inconvenient as being late.
Boring, yeah.
It's not boring, it's inconvenient. Like, if someone says, I'm coming over at 1, I'm ready at noon. Like, I'm ready. I'm waiting by the door like a puppy. I get excited.
And
You're always on time.
Well, I would say how early I am depends on how far away I'm traveling.
How much time you got to buffer in for?
Because I always account for traffic or anything like that. So if I'm going an hour away, under normal conditions, I might show up in 45 minutes. And sometimes there's been times where I take a trip around the block, look at the neighborhood, so I'm not that early to someplace. But I'm definitely somebody who likes to be on time, because it certainly is, I find it as for me personally, it's like it's something respectful of the people I'm around, which I like. I mean, again, I don't overly judge if someone's late or running behind.
I only get mad when someone doesn't tell me they're late.
I just let me
know. I'm like, that totally happens. I get it. I find myself, like, the past 2 weeks, like, I've had 2 appointments where I'm running late. I end up getting there exactly at the time I'm supposed to, but for me, 2 minutes late is just like, I'm 2 minutes late. And I don't know where I got it from. I think it's my mom's dad, my grandpa, because like when we were a kid, he would bring us to the movies so early, the previous showing wasn't done yet. So like we saw Balto and like the movie was still playing.
Well, weren't you just talking also about you showed up to an open house before the agent who was putting on the open house got there?
2 weeks ago, I was taking buyers out. There was a couple, well, there's one that was open, the rest were just like regular showings. So the showing started at, like, the open house started at 1. It's like 12:40. I'm like, all right, we're 20 minutes early. Someone should be here soon. The lights of the house were already all on. Driveway's empty, home's empty. So I texted the agent who I made the appointment with, and I said, hey, I was supposed to come to the open house. It was a little bit early. I was hoping she'd say, okay, use the lockbox. Like, just go in and show yourself the house. And she's like, oh, I'm not the one doing the open house. Like, somebody else is coming. The agent came exactly at 1 o'clock, and by that time, there were already 4 cars of people waiting outside to go in. And then she's like, wait, I gotta get ready. Like, give me a minute. I'm like, okay, I'll give you a minute. When it was 12:40. It's 1 o'clock now. I'm on a schedule. If you're doing an open house and you're getting there exactly the time it starts, you're a shitty agent. I'm sorry. Unless something happened in your family or there was an accident and you're in traffic. But it was obnoxious that we all now, buyers were now all waiting, and some were not with agents. So what does that look like for the buyer? Right. I complained to Scott, and Scott's like, well, I usually get there like 10 minutes before. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that.
Again,
10 minutes, so it was the 10 minutes mean would have been waiting for 10 minutes.
But I would say, so again,
but you're also putting out signs.
That's what I was saying. I was
she didn't.
Right.
She didn't do any of that.
Yeah, that's weird. Like,
the lights
I
were
usually
already
get,
on.
like, into the area of the open house like half an hour ahead of time, if not more. And then I'm putting out signs, like making sure everything's all good to go.
Yeah, but and it was more of the fact
when 1 o'clock hits, like, you should be ready for people to start.
Your butt should be in the seat. You should have your papers out, your signing sheet
Which
ready.
I learned, one of the first open houses I ever did, I remember I thought I, like, got there well ahead of time. It was like 15, 20 minutes early, sitting outside the house, ready to start. I just, I gone in, turned on all the lights. I went back out to my car to, like, eat a sandwich. And people, like, rolled up. I was like, oh, shit.
I had somebody come Sunday at 12:58. Signed in at 12:58. So that means they were parked, and I loved that. I was ready to hustle. Mind you, I'm not that much of a time crazy person where I'm like, well, you're 10 minutes late. Like, no. Open houses, though, you're setting the profession, and especially when it's not your open house, it's kind of crappy that that agent was that late. And like there were 3 agents just sitting outside waiting and waiting and waiting, and it just got annoying because it's like, come on, lady.
Well, and that's the thing. personally, as a listing agent, I'm sure both of you, if you ever have somebody running an open house, for me, I have a standard. I have a standard, and it's also a zero tolerance policy. It's not a negative. It's not I don't like you as a person.
No.
But if you're doing an open house for me,
you're working for my client.
You better, and I'm giving you an opportunity.
Yes.
And if you want that opportunity, you better be there ready to go with signs out and ready to do everything 15 minutes beforehand. Yeah. And I let everyone know that ahead of time.
Yeah, you should.
It's not something that it's like
set the expectation.
Like that
some secret list you have that you're not telling them that you have to check off on. Exactly.
Right. Because that's what I want expect out of them. And it's not a negative. It's just being prepared. I've had ones where I was all ready to go half hour before, and people have shown up and said, "Oh, can I come in now?" And I was already ready.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I said, "You know what? Yes." And that person ended up buying the house, and they said, "You know what? We really couldn't have come any later."
I know.
So,
That's
thank
what
you
I
so
mean.
much for opening it up
and
early.
like, there's been a couple times where like one person came 15 minutes early, and my clients had 2 kids and a dog to get out, and there was a baby, like not even 1-year-old. So I was like, listen, they're getting every minute out of this equation as possible because they had kids. And then the person was like, "Oh, are you ready to show now?" I'm like, "Could you just give me 10 minutes?" That person never came. It was a nosy person. They never came. It wasn't a serious buyer. Go, just give me like 6 minutes, wait outside, like I will be happy to take you in. But I could tell, like, she was, not that this does not matter, but she was like in like a running outfit, like driving a car, like she was having her Sunday chill day. She was being nosy, which I love. Nosy neighbors, they're the best. But like, it wasn't a real actual person coming in,
because they would have waited.
They would have waited, exactly. But my whole frustration is just when, like, I just have a great amount of respect for other people's time, so I don't like to waste it. I don't like mine being wasted, and just be upfront with me. And I was more irritated the fact, she's like, because the listing agent's like, "Oh yeah, the lights are on, they're ready to go." And I'm like, if there was just a lockbox, I could just pop in. And the house was crap. The photos were so misleading that we went in there, we're like, oh my god, they must have photoshopped all of this. So it ends up just being like a giant waste of our time too. So it's just frustrating in both ends of the spectrum. And there were buyers that were waiting out there like rolling their eyes like, "Come on, we're ready to go." In this market, you can't be 5 minutes late on an open house. You can't.
No, it's there's too much activity.
Too much activity.
Again,
and then it was
right.
Then it was chaos.
Let's spend the last 10 minutes of the podcast putting a little positive energy back
I agree.
into...
The positive energy is that we're all really good at what we do, and majority are.
Exactly.
And I really like what we do. I'm just crazy about being late.
But it's again, most of what we're talking about is the difference of the perception of what a realtor is and what a realtor should be. And, it's a level of professionalism that we've all, that we pride ourselves on. And, most people that we know do pride themselves
of course, majority.
On that. So I would say, it's like, we're blessed to be around so many people who do, take it to that next level.
I get embarrassed on behalf of our industry. That's where I get frustrated, because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But
I would just call it unfortunate, because it is, it's like in any field of work where like there's people who do a good job and there's people who don't do a great job, and people can have a negative opinion based on,
and we've all grown,
a bad experience, which is why, I mean, we've talked about in the past like expired listings, and we were talking earlier about like staging. It's that little bit extra that really matters, and a lot of people don't put that. So like,
I just want my client to get the most money in the fastest time possible.
Yeah.
And I'm here to help them do that. And when you see someone that maybe, and there are times when agents try their best and people are stubborn, and that's fine. But I get sad for the homeowners that aren't being told like, "Hey, listen, I get that you're moving, but could you do XYZ just to make it look like it's lived in?" Like, and it's just the small things where I feel like that agent is not helping their clint. They just don't care.
And none of us are perfect, like you said.
Oh God, no.
You the one time you were trying to have a bite to eat, and I've been in I was in that situation before where I was like, because I was rushing to get signs up and other things, I didn't have time to have lunch, and then I have a massive headache by the end of the open house.
Yep.
And it wasn't my best open house.
That was the benefit.
You learn and you keep moving.
And
on.
that's what, like, I mean, we do lead crazy lives sometimes
totally.
in real estate, where like I remember that day being out with a buyer from like 10 in the morning until 12:30,
I give
and
you
just
credit.
being like, I gotta go.
I don't show homes the morning of. I give you a lot of credit for that. The day of my open house that morning is blocked off. I will not show homes unless it's in the town that I'm doing the open house in, and it's my town.
And I think that's probably
I give
something
you credit for that.
Again, I said that was early on in my career. I've definitely rethought that now.
Where we have to be done by 12.
Or even like whatever. Now, like I would probably say, like, listen, like if anything, especially now that we have, the weather is gorgeous out and, days are getting longer, like let's go out for like an hour or two after the open house. I'd be glad to do that. So that
was the benefit at my open house this weekend. It was 1.3 miles from my house and a 4-minute drive. So I woke up, I got ready, got some coffee, put my signs out, checked on the house, opened the windows because it was gorgeous out. I just wanted some fresh air in the house. And then when my open house came, all I did was walk in the house, and I just sat down, turned the lights, and that was it. So that was a huge benefit. But there are times when like your open house is like 25 minutes from you, so you can't do that. But overall, today we had a lovely day together. I had a really nice time going out with both of you, looking at houses. It was really fun. We got a nice light lunch together and just roasted in the sun for about an hour.
Yeah, it's warm today. It's
so warm.
It hit the 80s today, which is pretty awesome.
Sign that summer is coming.
Summer is coming, but probably it's supposed to be cold the next few days. And Scott's going to the beach tomorrow with Paula.
Yeah.
For a few days.
Yep, it's going to be a good time.
Although I have a closing on Thursday, so I'll be back up here.
Why do you have to? Were you planning on?
Yeah, I mean it's good friends who are closing on their first home, so
covered it for you.
I'm kind of happy to.
Wouldn't be the first time I covered Scott's closing. In that moment, this clients realized if I only had worked with Megan. No, like I would, and that's what's great. Like when you have really good friends in the business, like we all are a similar personalities. We're young, we're fun. So like if I cover Scott's closing, like they don't feel like a giant gap is missing because like I'm bringing the same energy that he'd bring.
And Scott's, definitely, or you would definitely go to the house afterwards, go meet them, say congratulations. That's the closing table is really about signing documents,
your life away.
It's continuing, that relationship on forward.
And we've talked about it before, how like it's important now for the buyers. Like the buyers have to show up to sign documents. For sellers, half of the time, like
they're not there.
Oh, they've already signed and everything's done.
So I think it's always nice now when we have buyers to go to that closing with them and like, even though we're not serving a purpose there, it's a celebration of them buying a property or buying a home.
So. My favorite part of closing is when the attorney goes, "What's your wedding anniversary?" Because on one of the documents, if you're married, they need that. It's my Ben always made it really funny. He'd ask husband, "What's your wedding anniversary?" And like deer in headlights, and like it was like a contest. Like they knew the answer, but they were put in the spot. And one was just married a few months ago, so like, I knew they knew it real quick, so it was fun. But that's my favorite part of closing, when you ask a married couple their wedding anniversary, the woman's like, and the husband's always like, okay, I got it. And most of the time they know. I hate that stereotype where men don't remember things. Men are equally as sentimental as women. Everyone has their thing, but that's my favorite part of closing.
Depends on the couple. I've seen both sides of, be like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, of course. Like the other one.
And sometimes you're like so not thinking about that date in a closing when it comes up, like your mind is just kind of scrambling.
Oh, there's
everybody's
kind of a lot
mind is scrambled.
Closing day.
I know. There's been time I always come to closing like so mellow and happy, and I crack jokes because it can be really overwhelming. And I just try to make it fun. Like, this is just a formality. You know what you're signing. Just take it and run. And I love the ones where like, all right, just pass it along. And they're like passing the paper. And like, closings are my favorite thing. They're so fun.
And if your buyer's last name is Smith, Jones, or any other immensely popular name, get ready to have a longer closing because they have to assert that they any kinds of judgments are not against them.
I actually haven't had an issue. Kate, when she closed, there was another Catherine Krupa, but
that's a small packet.
Yeah,
and
I've had a Michael Smith.
Oh my God, that sounds like a murder name. But it was so fun. Like, that was fun. Like, not you, right? And she's like, no. But I've never had a really popular name before. It's funny that you mentioned that. I've never encountered that.
Yeah, I mean, we come from a pretty diverse area, so it's not too many, but I've had some where they have a whole stack of papers that they have to go through.
It's so funny.
It takes time, but again, if it's a popular name, just schedule accordingly. But so on this beautiful day, that's all we have for Castles, Cribs, and Cocktails. I'm Michael Copeland.
I'm Scott Stewart.
I still am pissed that I'm last, Megan O'Brien.
And thanks for listening.